Pokémon is one of my personal favorite series of games. I've been playing them for the majority of my life, and for the most part the games are very lighthearted and happy. However, there are some aspects of these games that aren't so bright. Today, we'll be talking about some of the dark and disturbing things that surround the Pokémon universe, from in-game oddities to theories and real-life events. This iceberg is by Reddit user NintendoFan388 and will be linked in the description and pinned comment as usual. Without further ado, let's get into it. This is the creepiest Pokémon Iceberg explained. Ghost Girl in X and Y. The Pokemon X and Y Ghost Girl, or the Lumio City Ghost, is an entity that appears in a building on North Boulevard. After taking the elevator to the second floor, you'll exit the elevator and the screen will briefly fade out and then back in twice before the Ghost Girl appears. It will then continue to fade in and out before the Ghost Girl slowly glides around you. She says, "No, you're not the one," and leaves. Clearly she was waiting for someone, but who? This has never been revealed. Pokemon Creepy Black. Pokemon Creepy Black is a Pokemon creepypasta or Pokepasta from 2010 that's highly regarded as one of the first Pokemon creepypastas and one of the most popular gaming creepypastas ever made. This story revolves around a mysterious Game Boy cartridge that the narrator buys from a flea market. The cartridge is completely black and only has the word Pokemon on the otherwise blank sticker. The title screen of the game simply says Black version, and the Pokemon don't cycle through in the background like they usually do. After getting their starter, the narrator notices that they have another Pokemon in their party, one simply called a Ghost. This Ghost looks exactly the same as the Ghost you find in the Pokemon Tower when you don't have a Silph Scope. It was only level 1 and only had one move, Curse. If they used Ghost in battle, the game would state that the opposing Pokemon was too scared to move. After picking Curse, the screen would turn black briefly and the cry of the opposing Pokemon would play, though it would be much more distorted. Afterwards, the Pokemon sprite would be gone and the Pokeball that held the Pokemon beside the trainer sprite would disappear, with the implication that the Pokemon was eradicated. When finishing the battle, they could either run or select Curse, which would delete the opposing trainer as well. If they left and re-entered the area in which the deleted trainer was, their sprite would be replaced with a tombstone similar to the ones found in Lavender Town's Pokemon Tower. The only Pokemon Curse didn't work against were ghost types, and the only trainers it didn't work against were those that would appear multiple times in the story. After beating the game, they were met with the dialogue, "Many years later," and appeared as an old man in front of Lavender Tower. As they traversed the world walking at only half speed, the Lavender Town theme became more and more distorted. Eventually, they reached their house in Pallet Town after using Diglett's cave to cross over from Vermilion. In the house, they walked over to the exact tile where they started the game, which caused a sequence of Pokemon and trainer sprites to be shown, all outlined in white on a black background. These were every single Pokemon and trainer that had Curse used on them. Eventually, they ended up finding Ghost, and the only move the old man could use was Struggle. After the old man's health got low enough, the Ghost used Curse and the screen turned black one final time. Mew Glitch. The Mew Glitch, or the Long Range Trainer Glitch, is a popular glitch from the Gen 1 Pokemon games. It was first reported in 2003, although it could have been done earlier. In order to perform this glitch, you need to find a long range trainer. Right as you step into their line of sight, you go into your start menu and choose Fly or Teleport. If it works properly, the trainer will have an exclamation point appear over their head before you fly away. You must then battle a trainer with a Slowpoke north of Celadon. In order to properly fight them, you need to walk above them with one tile of space between the both of you so that they will walk up to you. This will stop the game from freezing. Directly after beating them, teleport or fly back to the Pokemon Center. Then, walk on the Nugget Bridge. The start menu should pop up automatically when you reach a certain point on the bridge. After closing the start menu, a Mew will appear. Nuzlocke. A Nuzlocke, or Nuzlocke challenge, is a set of rules that can apply to a Pokemon game in order to make it more difficult. The challenge originates from comics under the same name, and the original rules were simple. Release a Pokemon if it faints, and you're only allowed to catch the first Pokemon you encounter in each route. Over time, more variations and rules were added. Most people will now add rules like it being mandatory to nickname Pokemon, as that was mentioned in the comic, and the dupes clause, which allows you to not have to catch the same Pokemon even if it's the first encounter in a route. Check out my second channel if you want to see me do some Nuzlocks of my own, as I've already done a couple and I'm currently working on more. Missing No. Missing No, also known as Missing Number, is a glitch Pokemon found in the Gen 1 Pokemon games. It's pretty easy to encounter. Basically, you need to watch the Pokemon catching tutorial in Viridian City before immediately flying to Cinnabar Island and surfing on the eastern coast until you encounter a Missing No. The reason this works is because the game has a data buffer during the catching tutorial, which replaces your character's values with that of the old man that's performing the tutorial. Since the player isn't supposed to be read as old man, the game can generate Pokemon with an invalid identifier value such as missing no. Missing no also glitches out other things like increasing the 6th item in your inventory by 128 and glitching out the Hall of Fame. It's one of the most popular glitches in video game history and highly regarded in the Pokemon community as well. Lavender Town Syndrome. Alright, now we're starting to get into the creepy stuff. Lavender Town Syndrome is a very popular urban legend or creepypasta that speaks of a catastrophic event in Japan in 1996. It's said that the original Japanese version of Pokemon Red and Green had a version of the Lavender Town theme that caused adverse effects in young children from the ages of 7 to 12, including illness and... This allegedly caused the team to change the theme for the American releases, which is why the tones are slightly different. After this urban legend became popular, many began to wonder if it was true, if there were any hidden frequencies in the Lavender Town theme. This eventually led to a now infamous video in which the Lavender Town theme was run through a spectrogram and allegedly created a ghost sprite, an unknown, which spelled out, "Leave now." I can personally say this one used to have me terrified to go to Lavender Town, even in the Gen 3 remakes. Nowadays it's one of my favorite video game themes of all time, but I'm sure many are still terrified of it to this day. Mew under the truck. The infamous urban legend that you could find a Mew under a truck in the Gen 1 games is one that caused many to feverishly try and fail to catch the elusive legendary Pokemon. In reality, if you do travel to Vermilion and go south to the infamous Mew truck, there won't be anything there. In the future games, they did hide rare items under the truck as a gag though. And hey, you can always do the aforementioned Mew glitch to get it instead. Buried Alive. Buried Alive, also known as the Buried Alive model, is an entity that is said to have been the former boss of Pokemon Tower instead of the Marowak that currently exists there. After reaching the final floor, you'll be met with this dialogue. "You're here. I'm trapped. And I'm lonely. So very lonely. Won't you join me?" After this, you battle him. He has 2 white hands, a Gengar, and a Muk. If you defeat him, the game freezes as no code was written in case of his defeat. However, if you lose, you'll be met with dialogue stating, "Finally, fresh meat," before several lines of gibberish. He would then drag the player's sprite into the ground before it shows a creepy game over screen. This screen shows Buried Alive devouring the player's character. Ghosts in Old Chateau. The Old Chateau is a haunted mansion in the Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum games. It's located in Eterna Forest, and after defeating the second gym leader Gardenia, you'll see her standing in front of the trees outside of the chateau. She claims she would explore it, but that she's busy and runs away. After going inside, you'll be able to explore the haunted mansion and its many rooms. In certain rooms, you'll be able to find ghosts. Characters that glide and move in unnatural ways, flickering in and out of existence. There's a ghost of a little girl in one room, and in the dining room there's a ghost of a butler. We can only wonder what their lives were like before they ended up doomed to haunt this mansion, possibly for eternity. Cut/beta Pokemon. This refers to the many Pokemon sprites over the years that went unused or were moved to later generations in the future. It's honestly really cool to check some of these out and see what Pokemon we could have had in certain games, and occasionally what Pokemon were fully conceptualized prior to the generation we actually see them appear in. Ash's Coma theory. This theory was created due to the fact that Ash never ages, and the fact that right after Ash is hit by lightning in the first episodes, the pacing and overall atmosphere changes. According to the theory, after Ash got hit by lightning, he ended up unconscious before being rushed to the hospital and subsequently put in a medically induced coma for treatment. The rest of the series that takes place is Ash attempting to achieve his dreams and escape reality. If he overcomes all of his mental barriers, he'll be able to wake up from the coma with no lasting damage. This is allegedly why he's allowed to leave home at his young age despite all of the dangerous Pokemon in the world, and why Officer Jenny and Nurse Joy are always the same in every single city. This is also why every time he enters a new region, nobody knows who he is despite his accomplishments in the Pokemon world. Like for example, how Paul had no idea who he was despite him placing top 16 in every single league and defeating the Orange League in Battle Frontier. The theory gets darker as they explain how different characters represent different aspects of Ash, Brock representing his and Team Rocket representing different negative aspects of himself. Eventually in reality, it's said that Ash is forced to be taken off life support, muttering his final words, "I want to be the very best." There's also an alternate theory in which he returns to reality and vows to become a Pokemon master in the real world, a much darker place. Strange House. The Strange House is a location in Pokemon Black and White 2. You get to this place by flying in Skyless Plane to another town and taking a path to the right. After you find the creepy abandoned house in the desert area, you can venture inside, where you'll be greeted with one of the most sinister Pokemon OSTs to date. Among other things, this house also has its own ghost girl, who apparently along with her Abra was put into an inescapable nightmare by Darkrai that sealed their fate. White Hand. Also known as whitehand.gif, White Hand is a sprite of a decaying hand that was supposed to appear on the 3rd floor of Pokemon Tower. It only has 2 attacks, those being Fist and Brutal. The supposed frames for Fist are simply the hand closing into a fist and swinging forward, while Brutal has the majority of frames cut out. This, in my opinion, is also a reference to some dialogue from a little girl in Lavender Town which says, "Do you believe in ghosts?" followed by a yes or no option. When picking yes, you get the response, "So there are believers." If you pick no, you get the response, "That white hand on your shoulder, it's not real." Gen 1 Softlocks. A softlock is typically described as something that completely halts your in-game progress. An example of this would be getting rid of all your money after beating all the trainers and tossing all of your items before the Safari Zone in Pokemon Red and Blue. A softlock is meant to be nearly impossible or completely impossible to pass and causes the player to have to reset the game. Pikaspray Yellow has made some interesting videos on this concept, which I recommend. Void Glitch. The Void Glitch comes from the practice of tweaking, a glitch performed by precise movements that causes an area's graphics to load improperly. The Void Glitch is a specific tweaking glitch only usable in Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. If you tweak a black area onto a section that's supposed to contain buildings and then stand one tile above a building before reloading and heading south, you'll end up in the interior map of the building, otherwise known as the Void Area. This allows the player to access areas like New Moon Island and Flower Paradise. Azure Flute. Azure Flute, otherwise known as Heaven's Flute, is a mystery gift item for Pokemon Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. After traveling up to Spear Pillar, you can use it in order to create a staircase and access Arceus in the Hall of Origin. Interestingly enough, the specific item was never actually distributed. Masuda eventually stated that he made the decision not to distribute it due to him feeling as though it would be too confusing for people. Pokemon Lost Silver. Pokemon Lost Silver is another famous, or infamous, Pokepasta that was released on 4chan in July of 2010. It's about a college student that purchases a used copy of Pokemon Silver from GameStop due to them not being able to play the newly released Pokemon Soul Silver yet. After booting the game up, the logo freezes for a bit before the screen goes dark. Eventually, the author is loaded directly into the game, no start screen or menu appearing at all. When checking the character's information, they find that they're named Ellipses, have 999 hours and 99 minutes in the game, and they also have max Poké Dollars. They also have all 251 Pokemon in the dex and all 16 badges. When checking the team, the author was surprised that it wasn't a team of level 100 legendaries and instead 5 unknowns and a Cyndaquil named Hurry. The unknown spelled out leave. They closed out of the start menu and began walking around the silent room, which looked like a room from Bellsprout Tower. After walking into the back of the pillar in the center of the room, the screen turned black and the Ruins of Alpha Unknown theme started playing. They checked the Pokegear only to realize that it was completely empty. Afterwards, they used Flash and walked down a gray path. With every 20 steps, it got darker and darker until they reached a sign which said, "Turn back now." The only options it had were yes or no, and the narrator chose yes. This caused a ladder climbing sound and the Pokeflute radio music to start playing. After appearing in another room, it states that Hurry has fainted. When checking the Pokemon party, he has a new team of level 10 unknown that spell out, "He died." Eventually, they checked the trainer profile again, noticing that his face had changed to a more somber expression and that he now had 24 badges. After a few minutes, the character slowly spun downward, similar to a reversed escape rope animation, and lands in a Bellsprout Tower room yet again. When checking the trainer info, the player has no legs and bloody tears running down his cheeks, as well as having 32 badges now. The team now consisted of 5 unknown and a level 100 Celebi, the 5 unknown spelling out dying. The shiny Celebi was only half of a sprite and only had the move Parasong. Eventually, after walking north, they come upon a lot of ghostly sprites lining the path on either side of them before reaching a ghostly version of Red. Red uses a level 255 Pikachu in the battle that looks sad and has tears in its eyes. At this point, the battle continues without the narrator's input until Parasong takes Celebi out and Pikachu takes itself with it. After the battle ends, Red Sprite is suddenly beheaded before flashing back to the overworld. Now the team contained 6 shiny unknown that spelled out no more. The player also had only a head left as well as 40 badges. They were back in New Bark Town, and after floating around their room, they traveled outside of the typical room area into the black void beyond it. Eventually they came into contact with a normal sprite of their self, who simply uttered, "Goodbye forever," before the dialogue said, "????, use nightmare." The player spun downward once again and ended up in a room full of graves. The unknown in the party now spelled out, "I'm dead," and the player had no sprite and 0 badges. The final text said, "RIP." The author claims that this represents the fact that although Gold was a phenomenal trainer, he couldn't escape the clutches of death no matter how hard he tried or how great he was. Bad Egg. Bad eggs are a phenomenon from the Gen 3 to Gen 5 games. They're typically caused by some form of data manipulation, as they appear when the checksum and the game's data calculations don't match up. They rarely hatch and usually spread throughout your PC box, as well as freeze your game if used in battle. It can be removed by cheating or possibly traded away. I can personally say I've encountered bad eggs before on a GBA card that I had never cheated on, so I'm not sure what else can cause them. Gary's Eradicate. Gary's Eradicate is a theory that states that in the original Gen 1 games and Gen 3 remakes, when you fight Gary on the SSN and defeat his team, his Eradicate is especially badly injured in the battle. Due to the fact he was too far away from the Pokemon Center, he couldn't heal it in time and had passed away. As Pokemon passing away is an established phenomenon in the Gen 1 games, it makes sense that this could be a possibility. This would not only explain why he no longer uses Eradicate, but why he's standing in front of a grave when you meet him in the Pokemon Tower in Lavender Town. This would also better explain why he asks you if any of your Pokemon died, possibly meaning did any of your Pokemon also die. DBZ reference in X and Y. In Pokemon X and Y, if you defeat Psychic Robert on Route 10, he will say that your power levels must be over 9,000, of course referring to the famous Vegeta clip from Dragon Ball Z. Buy it or die. This is allegedly an anti-piracy message put into bootleg copies of Pokemon Fire Red. When speaking to a sailor on the dock of the SSN, they say, by the way, if you like this game, buy it or die. Now sadly in my case, I haven't been able to find this dialogue on any type of ROM yet, so if anyone has experienced this dialogue on their copy, let us know in the comments below. Palm Egg Glitch. The Palm Egg Glitch is a glitch only used in Pokemon Emerald, Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum that involves the use of a Palm Egg Berry, due to the Palm Egg Berry's ability to lower a Pokemon's HP EV by 10 in Gen 3. This can cause you to lower a Pokemon's HP to 0 or a negative value without making it faint. In Gen 4, this glitch can be used with a Pokemon at 4 HP but not 3 or lower. This glitch is used for a bunch of different things, from random glitches in battle for fun to manipulating data in order to catch/have certain Pokemon. Gen 4 and 5 DNS Exploit. This exploit is a way to get Pokemon from old Gen 4 and 5 mystery gift events today. When going into your Wi-Fi settings on your console and changing your DNS address, you gain access to the server that distributed the specific event Pokemon for that generation. I honestly recommend JRose11's video called How to Get Legit Event Pokemon in Gen 4 and 5. I can say it does work, so try it out if you haven't before. Professor Oak Fight. This is a battle that was removed from the Gen 1 games in which you fight your own teacher, Professor Oak. Currently, you can still access the Professor Oak fight through the Ditto glitch method in the Gen 1 games. From my understanding, the Ditto glitch requires you to fight a wild Ditto and use a Pokemon with a specific special stat you want. Wait on Ditto to use Transform and then perform whatever type of stat manipulation you need to, for example, use Growl. Then after that, you need to defeat the Ditto and leave instead of catching it. And you can't encounter or battle anything else after the Ditto encounter. This video by Elo should be able to help you out more. Gen 6 Mythicals on the GTS. The GTS, otherwise known as the Global Trade Station, is a system that's been incorporated in Pokemon games since Gen 4. You can use the internet in order to trade people for whatever Pokemon they're asking for. Mythical Pokemon are typically untradeable on the GTS, however it is possible to trade them on the GTS in Gen 6. The only way I saw this as possible is if you hack the Pokemon in, therefore causing them to not have a classic ribbon. If you have more info on this phenomenon, definitely comment below. Giovanni commits in Heart Gold and Soul Silver. This is a classic disturbing Pokemon theory. In the Celebi event, you are transported back in time in order to fight Giovanni. The location you fight him in just happens to be a hidden cave in front of a waterfall. After defeating Giovanni, he walks out of the cave before a loud splash sound is played. Some believe that this was the sound of Giovanni jumping into the waterfall and ending his life. Mystery Zone. A Mystery Zone is a typically inaccessible zone in the Gen 4 Pokemon games. These zones can be accessed through tweaking, a glitch style that we talked about earlier. The background music for these areas is typically the Route 206 Day theme, the one that's been playing in the background of this section. Bridge Girl. This is referring to a young girl that stands on the Marvelous Bridge in the Unova region before flickering out of sight. This girl is the same girl that was allegedly eradicated by Darkrai, making her dead and therefore a ghost. Battle Frontier cut off from Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire because of smartphone games. To explain this one, we'll have to look into an interview of Masuda on why the difficulty level of the games is so low and why exactly the Battle Frontier was removed. First, the interviewer asks, "We noticed ORAS has a lower difficulty level compared to the previous Pokemon games. What brought you to this decision? Any chance that future games will have the possibility to adjust difficulty level as seen in Black and White 2? Masuda responds, "What? How come you've already played the games?" The games were supposed to come out in Italy the day after the interview. We created a balanced game that was suited for our time and age where everyone is very busy and young people have various means of entertainment. Using smartphones and other devices, they can access a great number of games, so the time they dedicate to a single game is less than in the past. The player can choose to keep on playing after the main story and continue to the post-game where the difficulty rises and there are much more difficult trainers and challenges to overcome. They then ask, "Why wasn't the Battle Frontier in the remakes?" Masuda answers, "This question is connected with my previous answer. We didn't put the Battle Frontier in ORAS for this very reason. interviewers note. In short, he means that they didn't include the battle frontier because only a very small part of the players would have fully appreciated and made use of this feature. Nowadays, players get bored and frustrated more easily, so they aren't interested in things that are so demanding/challenging. Hypno's lullaby. This is an old Pokepasta that revolves around Hypno and it using its psychic abilities to hypnotize children and take them far away. It's read in a poem-like fashion and speaks of the psychological torture Hypno is performing upon both the parents and children that are being caught up in his wrongdoings. Trainer Derek's video on it is probably the best reading that you'll get as well. There's also a Game Boy Advance ROM hack which I've actually played on this channel, so check that out if you want. Beating Red and Blue without the Boulder badge. Many NA% Gen 1 speedrunners beat the game without getting a single gym badge. By doing a specific sequence of inputs, you're able to trick the game into thinking that you have -1 Pokemon, manipulating the RAM of the game and thus manipulating your position. If you end up doing it right, you should load into the Hall of Fame without ever even having to leave your room. Ditto is a failed attempt at cloning Mew. This is a common theory that suggests that Ditto is a failed attempt at cloning Mew, obviously. Some of the most common similarities attributed to these Pokemon are that they are the only two to learn transform naturally and that they both have very similar if not the same normal and shiny colored sprites. Mew also holds the DNA of all known Pokemon while Ditto more or less can replicate the DNA of all known Pokemon. They're also both genderless. On top of this, they also share the same base stats and weight. Mewtwo's bio also states that it's the only successful clone of Mew, meaning that there were likely other failed clones, and it was allegedly created at Cinnabar Island where Ditto can be caught. So what do you think? To me, I think that this is most likely true and that Ditto is a failed Mew clone. Hall of Origin theme. The Hall of Origin is an area located above Spirit Pillar that can only be accessed using the Azure Flute. It's where you meet Arceus, the god of all Pokemon. However, it's also where you encounter one of the creepiest and, in my opinion, one of the more underrated Pokemon themes to date. It just gives off a feeling of unease, like something in the air is shifted just enough to cause you to feel like you're in danger. It makes sense considering although Arceus isn't aggressive, its godly presence alone likely throws the entire world off just a bit. GS Ball. The GS Ball is a Pokeball originally introduced in Pokemon Gold and Silver. An NPC in Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon states that it stands for the Greatest Smith's Ball, or the Gold Silver Ball. In the games, this ball is used to unlock Celebi. This was also featured in the anime with Professor Ivy being the first one to have one. It even appears in the Pokemon Adventures manga in the Gold, Silver, and Crystal chapter. Unused legendary dogs theme in Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. Although I'm not exactly sure of the reason why, the legendary dogs were supposed to be in Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, however they ended up being removed. Only this unused theme remains as evidence of their existence. Mewtwo is based on Mother 1's final boss. Gigas, or Gaigu, or Gaig, is the final boss of Mother 1. This alien overlord looks very similar in body to a Mewtwo. With its cat-like head and unearthly powers, it definitely could have been an inspiration. And just for reference, Mother 1 came out in 1989 while Pokemon Red and Green first released in 1996. Mew 3. Mew 3 is an extremely popular Fakemon and also refers to Red's Clefairy after it merges its DNA with Mewtwo's. The Fakemon was introduced in a popular ROM hack called Chaos Black and is reminiscent of a nostalgic time where everyone just made the wildest possible Pokemon sprites they could think of. Shiny Darkrai is untransferable. As far as I can tell, this is referring to the general idea that Darkrai isn't able to be traded in Pokemon Go. This could also just be referring to the fact that Shiny Darkrai are typically hacked, and so they aren't able to be transferred between games through the GTS, for example. Hurry, get away. In Pokemon Yellow's beta, if you enter a Pokemon battle with no Pokemon in your party, dialogue will appear stating, hurry, get away. You won't be able to pick any other options except for run. There's also an unused track associated with this option that is another really good Pokemon theme, which has been playing in the background of this section. Apparently it was supposed to be Giovanni's theme, but it just didn't make the cut. Shiny Ash Hat Pikachu. A special version of Pikachu with Ash's hat has a shiny version that is the exact same color code to the original in Pokemon Sun and Moon due to the fact that the shiny is locked to Ash's secret ID instead of yours. You can also get one that actually does look different in Pokemon Go. Gengar event. At Nintendo World 2009, an unofficial Gengar was distributed by a mysterious party. This Gengar had a slur as its nickname and black sludge as a held item, as well as other features generally relating to stereotypes. L Supersonic Q has a great video on this topic as well. Ghost Girl in Phoebe's room. When facing against the Elite Four member Phoebe in Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, you may notice a mysterious ghostly figure just as the screen transitions. This figure is apparently supposed to be her grandmother as a younger person, as someone on Reddit states that Phoebe can be met speaking to a grave in Mount Pyre. She asks you if you're there to train or pay respects, and then says that her grandma was impressed with your battle against her, proving that she was there. grinding levels with Pokewalker using a dryer. The only real reference I have for this is from a Pokemon forum post for 2010 I found when I first researched for this video in May, where a user called Lil J says, "Play catch with a pro baseball player or put it in your dryer after you've wrapped it in clothes," referring to methods you could use to get a bunch of steps and level up with the Pokewalker without actually having to do anything. Arbitrary code execution in Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow. This is a glitch technique that causes you to theoretically be able to run any code you want on the console you use. Basically, there are two different ways in which the console stores data, these being RAM and ROM. A program counter is what points to the memory location of the next line of code that needs to be executed. Sometimes instead of incrementing by 1, code will tell the program counter to jump forward or back, and these are called jump instructions. Since all game code is stored in ROM, the jump instructions point to a location in ROM. However, when performing arbitrary code execution, you can cause the jump instructions to point to RAM instead of ROM, and since RAM values can actually be controlled by the player, you can actually modify values in order to spell out lines of code. The greatest execution of this that I've seen is Pokemon Yellow arbitrary code execution by Mr. Wint. It's truly insane. Metallica reference in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Reddit user YoungsterJoey666 states that if you go to Mauville Gym, there's a guitarist trainer named Kirk. Kirk Hammett is the lead guitarist of Metallica, so this could possibly be a reference to them. This entire layer is fully explained by the creator in the comments of the post itself, so I'll be reading them directly. The 5th level is mostly some theories I've heard over the years, as well as some of my own discoveries, so I'll explain them. Red commits after being defeated. Similar to the Giovanni commits theory, after being defeated by Gold and Gold Silver Crystal or Heart Gold Soul Silver, the screen briefly cuts to black and Red disappears. Since none of his Pokemon in either of these games knows the move Fly, some people theorize that he just jumps off of Mount Silver, as there are no challenges left for him to face in his life. Gardenia, her family. During Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, when going to the old chateau, Gardenia will be there making some pretty strange excuses as to why she doesn't want to go in the mansion. As a result of this, some people theorize that the ghosts you see in the old chateau, the little girl and the old man, are members of her family that she had while living there at some point, and that Gardenia fears that they will haunt her if she goes into the mansion. Cyrus is permanently trapped in the Distortion World. After defeating Team Galactic's leader Cyrus for the final time in the Distortion World and facing Giratina, you and Cynthia will exit the Distortion World through a portal. Cyrus, however, does not follow you through the portal, and the area of the Distortion World that he is in becomes permanently inaccessible after exiting. Later in Stark Mountain, new Team Galactic boss Sharon comments on how Cyrus has disappeared. This leads people to believe that Cyrus is trapped in the Distortion World for all eternity. Voice that talks to you after Darkrai event is Arceus. In the Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum member card event that allow you to encounter the mythical Pokemon Darkrai, after catching Darkrai, a mysterious voice calls out to the player describing Darkrai's powers to create nightmares. It is unknown who is speaking in this dialogue, though since it knows so much about such an elusive Pokemon, some theorize this voice to be the voice of Arceus. New Bark Town entity. This is something I personally discovered. While playing around with the walk through walls code in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, I walked up through the trees in New Bark Town to see what was up there. To my surprise, there was a man in the trees, who had the same sprite as the "Yo, Champion the Making" guy. You could not interact with this NPC, and I remember him disappearing when attempting to get close to him, although I'm not 100% sure on this. As such, I titled him the New Bark Town entity. Ultra Necrozma is SCP-001. A bit of a joke on my part, but I always thought that Ultra Necrozma's ability to absorb all of the light from the world was similar to the when day break scenario of SCP-001. You perform a satanic ritual with Arceus in Heart Gold and Soul Silver. The Arceus event in the Sinjo ruins in Heart Gold Soul Silver has always been one of the stranger events in the Pokemon franchise. You head up to some remote place in Sinnoh inside what seems to be some form of sacred temple. From there, you use Arceus to create an egg of one of the 3 box legendaries in Sinnoh, while random real-world images flash on the screen with a weird outline of the triangle inside the temple surrounding Arceus. On top of this, Arceus' creepy battle theme from the unused Azure Flute event in Diamond Pearl Platinum plays throughout this entire sequence. To me, this always seemed similar to a satanic ritual, with placing some sort of sacred object or being in the middle of a symbol in order to obtain something. And with that, that's another Iceberg video done. I hope you enjoyed this one as much as I did. Pokemon is and will forever be one of my favorite video game series, and I'm really glad I could do a creepier version of the Iceberg for this channel. With all of that being said, thank you for watching, leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on, and stick around for the next video. Have a great day.